And welcome to Alouettes Flightdeck, podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football, the Grey Cup winning Montreal Alouettes football. I'm Jim Capper, along with my co-host here.
Cliffy D, here in the house, ready for Season 9, Tim. Season 9 of the Alouettes Flightdeck is now live, now happening on the interwebs. And yes, you will be able to download it later. If you're not catching this live, you can download it later. But I'm excited, Tim. I'm stoked. I'm ready for us to do this thing right here, right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And we also got to remind everybody, and also can't thank enough for joining us this year, is our presenting sponsor, SportsBuff, where they have again provided us with a promo code where you can save 10% off on your entire order. It is Al's Flight Deck 10. And just head over to sportbuffshop.com and support local as normal, right, Cliff?
100%. You got to support the local. And yeah, definitely excited to Tim, I mean, it's off season, but is it really off season anymore when it comes to Canadian football? I mean, it feels like there's always stuff that's going on. It's just not enough necessarily to do a weekly show. And props to the guys and gals that do. I mean, if you're able to do it, more power to you. But I think it's good for us to kind of take a bit of a breather sometimes. The way we do, like we finished our last episode was December 2023, celebrating that Grey Cup win. But free agency is here now, live, and we got to start talking about it. We got to talk about the moves that were made over the winter, so to speak. And again, I cannot overstate how excited I am for us to be back doing this. And I say we jump in feet first, Timmy.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. I mean, it's funny, everybody looks forward to, it's funny how we've made the tampering window a thing in the CFL. I don't think in any other league where you could have a tampering window like this, where you can talk to somebody even before free agency starts. But hey, I'm all for it with the CFL, right?
What's incredible is this is the first year where Alouettes Nation gets to truly enjoy it for what it is, because last year, let's not forget, there was a whole kerfuffle as far as ownership of the team and what was going to happen. And general manager Danny Machocha couldn't do anything. Like, he couldn't do anything of note during the tampering window being open. And you would think that would sink the team, but look what happened. It sure as hell didn't sink the team.
No, and that's one of the things I wanted to start off on before we started actually talking about the roster moves that the Owls have made. What a year, what a difference a year makes, eh, Cliff? I mean, considering that everything that we went through, I think at this time last year, we were just actually, if I remember correctly, the date that we're taping this being, on Valentine's Day, I think this was the day a year ago that Coach Jason Moss was hired. It was announced that he was hired. If I remember correctly. You're
remembering incorrectly. He was actually hired December of 2022.
What was they thinking that was actually done? Because I know I've mentioned it before on a previous pod where it was it getting Cody?
It was
it
was making official that Cody Fajardo was going to come be a member of the Alouettes.
That's what it was. Okay. Yeah. So, but either way, look at the difference a year makes. I mean, we're within the tampering window. We couldn't do anything. We saw the free agencies, the free agents that we were going to be losing. Most likely we were going to be losing. But something about what Danny, our GM Danny Mack was able to do. And this year, with PKP coming in last year, it is a completely different off season that Owls fans have had to go through, and on top of that, the Owls are, 110 Grey Cup champs.
Exactly. And buoyed by that, I think there's a sense of relief. And what's the opposite of urgency? Because it's not that. I think it's just sort of a calm, if you will. Like, obviously, you're going to have to make moves. I mean, players are going to move on, even though everybody said at the end of the Grey Cup, everybody wanted to come back. And I think we knew that was just not realistic at all. I mean, people retire, people move on, people get shots to go play in the NFL. I mean, there's any number of reasons why you can't bring every single member of that championship team back. And that's fine. That's understandable. That's football. Football is like that. You know, there's always ebbs and flows. There's always changes to be made. Things have to evolve. And I'm excited to see what's going to be happening. I mean, we've got a lot of moves to talk about, like people leaving the nest as well as
Mm-hmm.
coming in. And, you know, like so far, I have to say, like, I think this year, knowing full well that Danny Machocha has basically carte blanche to do what he does best, and that is clearly building a championship roster. He did it last year. Why can't he do it again this year?
You know, it's true. And again, just the roster moves themselves. I mean, obviously we had a lot of players signed right after the Owls won the Grey Cup. And you know, he immediately was able to bring back some of the big names, some of the guys that really were going to be a concern. But man, I love this type of stuff. I really do. You know, I'm you know me, and people who've been listening to the show for a long time, you know, 9+ years that we've been doing this thing, is that, you know, I don't care about the draft, that type of stuff, but I love the offseason stuff because I want to see how our team is going to, you know, what it's going to become once training camp does come in, you know, in May. But yeah, man, but just looking at, I think if we were to start anywhere, first and foremost, I think we need to start off with two of the guys that we were sad to lose, but it wasn't that we lost them in free agency. We actually lost them to the NFL, didn't we?
We sure did. And I would say arguably two of the major contributors to that Grey Cup winning game that was played last November. We'll just start right up at the top. Austin Mack, who had a phenomenal season, is a phenomenal rookie season with the Alouettes. Not a rookie technically, because yes, he did play in the NFL before briefly, but this was his first year in the Canadian Football League, and he was just outstanding. There's just no two ways about it. He was a phenomenal player for the Alouettes, and a big part of the reason why they are the 110th Grey Cup champions. He decided to take his talent south, literally south. I'm talking about the dirty south in Atlanta. Yeah, Austin Mack signs a futures contract with the Atlanta Falcons, gets guaranteed money, a very nice sum actually, to sign on. And honestly, with a lot of the changes that are being made with the Falcons, he actually has a very, very good chance of sticking around and actually being a contributor for this team. So it's bittersweet because we love Austin. Dude was amazing. He was a friend of the show. Always happy to see us. We're always happy to talk to him.
Another one of our day one guys.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, like I said, I knew of him before because he was very briefly a member of the San Francisco 49ers, my NFL team. And I saw the talent was there before. And it's just a matter of, was he going to get a chance to shine? And shine he did, ladies and gentlemen. He clearly was able to parlay that into a return to the NFL. And hats off to him, man. He's going to kill it down there. I can tell you right now, he's going to go down there. And with all the changes that's happening with the Atlanta Falcons organization, they've got a new head coach, and there's a few free agents that are probably going to be leaving or moving on at the receiver position. So I think Austin has a very, very good chance of cracking the lineup, and just give him the opportunity, and he's going to make it work. That's exactly what he did in Montreal, and I have no doubt in my mind he's going to do the exact same thing in Atlanta.
Yeah. And then we had a guy who came in after being in the NCAA championship game. Another Canadian dude who just balled out, came in at just the right time, was able to get used to the Canadian game. The Alouettes unfortunately do lose Uglak after making what a year he did. You know, how he stood out in the CFL in year one. He was picked up and signed a futures contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's funny, by the way, both these guys are going to be in the NFC South.
That's it. They're gonna see each other at least twice.
Yeah,
that's incredible. I mean, that's and I'm sure they're gonna enjoy it. I think they're gonna have a good laugh, even though like now they're technically division rivals. But definitely tough to see Ugo go, because in the same vein as Austin Mack, definitely a great guy to sit and talk with. Guy played his ass off. There's no question about that. I mean,
Yeah.
the way with his height and his reach, his wingspan, the way he was able to smack balls down, just get after the quarterback. I mean, the guy was just an absolute menace on the defensive line. I mean, just
It made a hell of an impact in the Grey Cup too. And if anybody remembers or happened to watch, I think somebody was going. One of the guys on X were breaking down the game itself, and they actually pointed out. And now, whenever I see the last attempt, the last kickoff at the end of the game of the Grey Cup, Cliff, I see it all the time. Is Wall actually pointed out to basically his teammates who was going to be the kicker?
Yeah.
On that last try for the free kick, he pointed it out. I mean, that's the guy that learned and knew the Canadian rules. And I can only imagine how well this dude's going to do in the NFL. But luckily, the Owls do still, as far as I know, they own his rights, even though they are technically free agents. No, it's their option year. So we still do own them, if I remember correctly.
I
their
believe
rights.
so. If for whatever reason it doesn't work out for them in the NFL, they could come back to the Alouettes. That's one of the nice things about taking advantage of the NFL window. Sometimes teams will release a player to explore those opportunities, but in this case, it was a matter of they were within the window. So yeah, for whatever reason, if it doesn't work out down south, then yes, they could come back and become members of this Alouettes organization again.
Yeah.
Which, as I said, it's bittersweet because I want them to do well as people because, like I said, they're both phenomenal gentlemen and absolutely incredible football players. But I would not be mad at all if they were to come back and be a member of this organization again.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, you've set it up perfectly how to go into the next level. There, you talk about guys asking for the release. It was a very interesting offseason too. It's that some of these guys that were free agents actually did ask the Alouettes for their early release without having to worry about going through and waiting up to the tampering window, et cetera, et cetera. The Owls did have quite a few, and big names also asked the Alouettes to go ahead and release them early so that they could look elsewhere.
Yep. The most notable, of course, would be one of the, as we like to call it, the three-headed monster of William Stanback, Joshua Antwi, and Walter Fletcher. It was William Stanback that had asked for and was granted his release so that he can take his talents elsewhere. This is a tough one because Will's been a part of the team since 2017, I believe, or actually, no, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
He was a member of. It was when he first joined the Alouettes, and he grew with the city. He came along. I mean, it was just at the tail end of that sort of down period for the Alouettes, and then they found themselves on the upswing, and he was a major contributor to that. 2022, or was it 2022? He suffered a hellacious injury in the first game against Calgary. Worked his ass off to get back to and was able to contribute towards the end and was a part of the Grey Cup run, so to speak, of 2022, coming up just short in the Eastern Final against the Toronto Argonauts. But 2023 was a bit of an interesting year for him because he was still contributing at a solid level. A lot was expected of him, and for the most part, he was able to answer the call. But you also had Joshua Antwi kind of backing him up, but at the same time playing outstanding football in his own right. Walter Fletcher, when he got the chance to get on the field, he was doing amazing things as well.
Yep.
So I mean, as much of it was an embarrassment of riches for the Alouettes in the backfield, at the same time, I was like, well, there's only one football and there's three very capable running backs. I mean, you need two. There's no question about that. You need two guys in the backfield 100% that can run the rock. And it's one of those things where three's a crowd, I guess. So you had to make a decision. Okay, of these three, you can only keep two. And ultimately, Danny Machocha decided, well, we're keeping Walter Fletcher, we're keeping Joshua Antwi. Those guys were extended. And unfortunately, I guess William saw the writing on the wall, kind of looked at the younger, cheaper options that Fletcher and Antwi ended up being. And you know what? I don't fault him at all. I don't fault Stanback at all. He wanted to secure the bag like Gino Lewis did, like Vernon Adams did. And sometimes in order to do that, you got to go elsewhere. And lo and behold, he ends up signing a contract with the BC Lions. The their running back situation was a little bit different last year. It seemed like was it Taekwon Mizell? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He was a solid contributor, but at the same time, kind of was still trying to find his way. Whereas now, like I believe he's still a member of the organization, but now with William Stanback essentially going to come in as running back number one, I think that's going to be a situation that's going to benefit both of those guys tremendously. And Will's going to get paid. He's going to get a chance to shine, and I'm sure best of all for him, he gets reunited with Vernon Adams Jr., who he arguably had his best success with in 2019. The two of those guys working for the Alouettes, and it's tough because, a huge Stanback fan. I've gotten to know him over the years. Definitely a solid dude, up and down, left and right, however you want to phrase it. He's definitely an amazing character, and he's definitely going to be missed here in Montreal. I know a lot of fans were very understanding, but at the same time disappointed that he's not going to be continuing on with the Alouettes. Truthfully, all we can do at this point is wish him all the best and hope he goes out there and he gets what he's looking for out in BC.
Yeah, he had some stuff to say too. If anybody happened to listen to his initial press availability with the BC Lions, he had some interesting stuff to say. But just as being media members and supporters as we are, it's just that you have to take it for what it is. He's the one who played. He's the one who played for the team. So, but one thing I did find interesting, by the way, Cliff, and I told you this already, is that I don't know what it is about. The Alouettes really don't. The last recent period of time, the Alouettes really have not had a major turnover when it came to their incumbent, running back. But I'm curious to know what are your thoughts on this? While we're talking about the new players that come in and out for the Alouettes on their roster, the last four incumbents, the guys have been the one. None of them have lasted, I think, no more than 5.5, 6 years. Because we went from Stanback, and then it's now Stanback, but then it was Sutton, and then it was Coburn, and then it was who's the other one?
It was Whitaker, then Coburn.
Yeah. So I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, is it a matter of age thing? Is it a matter of money thing? Because I think it's a combination of how some of these our incumbent running backs have left the Alouettes. Is that it was either by free agency or it was by that type of thing. I mean, obviously somebody is good to have when it comes for running backs, but any thoughts when somebody like me or another somebody a historian will bring up that type of information to a fan when it comes to our incumbent running backs?
I think what it comes down to is when the Alouettes make a move at running back, it's about what do they have waiting in the wings, because they don't just get rid of somebody for the sake of getting rid of somebody. Like they tend not to just cast somebody aside for whether it's these guys are too expensive or they're not producing or anything like that. It's to me, it always feels like if they feel confident enough in their backup plan, they go ahead with it. And I think that's really what it came down to. For example, the reason why William Stanback became the number one running back in Montreal was because Tyrell Sutton, they looked at that situation. And I thought, okay, we got something good here in Stanback, so Sutton's expendable. And then when Sutton became running back number one, Brandon Whitaker became expendable, and so on and so forth. Like you go back through the history of the Alouettes, and it always feels like, okay, the next man that comes up and is ready to go, once they feel that he's ready, then it's, I hate to say, for lack of a better term, the old guy ends up getting shown the door, which, again, none of these guys were old when the Alouettes got rid of them. It was a case of letting someone go a year too soon versus a year too late. I think that was kind of the concern and the worry, is you don't want to hang on to someone for too long. And maybe that's just how Diane Machocha feels about William Stanback, is that maybe we're good with what we got with Walter Fletcher, with Joshua Antwi. Maybe we add someone else in free agency, which the Alouettes invariably did. We'll get to that momentarily. But unfortunately, yeah, I mean, I didn't see William Stanback taking a hometown discount too, especially after the phenomenal playoff run he had. That touchdown he scored in the Grey Cup is going to be burned in my mind for a long time, because it was just
It
absolutely
was,
phenomenal.
oh yeah, and it was necessary at that point in the game. That was a necessary touchdown for the Alouettes.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
we can't fault him though at all, Cliff. I mean, we've always had our wonders when it comes to the Owls getting rid of the running back. We know for sure. I mean, he is going to have. Come on, he's going back. He's going to BC where he's going to be matching up and getting back with Vernon Adams. You know what I mean? So you can't fault him because they have such a great repertoire.
no, and it's funny because on Eugene Lewis's socials, he was posting pictures with William Stanback's kids because, as you know, Gino does live in Montreal in the off season, and he was hanging out with William Stanback and his family. And I thought, could possibly maybe Gino be recruiting William to go out to Edmonton? Like, that could be an interesting move. But lo and behold, no, ends up going out and back with VA. And Vernon's excited. He's thrilled to have someone that he can trust behind his back. And you talk about those three guys, William Stanback, Vernon Adams, and Eugene Lewis. Those are three guys that came together in a huge way in 2018 and 2019. And you saw the work that they did, and that brotherhood got formed. And you have to believe that Vernon is very, very excited to have his buddy William Stanback with him.
One of the pluses too, as we've seen then we'll move on to more of our signings and stuff like that in free agency. But William Stanback has grown not necessarily just as a running back, but also as a blocker. Because obviously, as quarterback, as we know, when it comes to the quarterbacks need a little bit of protection when it comes to depending on which route they're running. And Stanback has just grown immensely. Not only is he a great receiver from out the backfield, if there happens to be necessary that VA has to go that way to Stanback, but he's a great blocker too. And he knows what he needs to do. And as long as, keeping VA upright, William will be there to do just that. And I can't wait. Cannot wait to see the guys return to Montreal for the very first time. See a lot of these guys return in different colors. It's going to be fun.
It will. And, we're going to be so excited to see William when he does come back and play at Percival Molson Stadium. It'll be a little tough, just like it was tough to see VA in the black and orange, but it's going to be just as tough, I think, to see Stanback in those colors as well. But you know what? We obviously wish him well. We obviously want the best for him. And if he can go out, play in BC, ball out like we know he can, that's awesome. And all at this point, really, truly, all we can do as supporters of this organization and of a William Stanback is just wish him all the best and just go out and kill it, man. That's all we want. That's all we want.
I agree. So obviously, when it came to we had there weren't. I think he wasn't. It wasn't necessarily. Was Stanback just the outlier when it came to asking for his release? I know we had some. I'm trying to think off the top of my head if we had some others that were asked to be let go early.
Well, I don't know if you want to count Zach Lindley asking for his. Well, he retired essentially.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's not really asking for a release per se, but I guess he's not coming back, unfortunately, which is another disappointing thing because he was a special teams dynamo and did absolutely outstanding work. And I guess he figured, okay, I got my Grey Cup, I'm good, So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But once again, if that's how he felt, I can't fault him for that either. And it's unfortunate because, just another great guy that was, to sit and chat with and watch him play was just nothing short of phenomenal. And once again, same thing. Like, just won't be with the Alouettes in 2024, and it's gonna be a very tough piece of the puzzle to replace.
Yeah, and we were talking about it before. We're going to talk about running backs. It did happen since we've been on our break and leading into our season 9 premiere. The Owls did sign what seems to be our new number one is in a William Walter Fletcher. They signed him only to a 1-year contract. It's the second year in a row that Fletch has signed a 1-year term with the Alouettes. At least at the moment, until camp starts, at least I would imagine that Fletch is going in as our number one and our new incumbent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, this is what we've come to expect out of this team when it comes to the running back situation. Let's not forget, Walter Fletcher was brought in when Stanback went down to injury, and look what he did. He played phenomenal. Both he and Joshua Antwi were like the 1A, 1B, and did an absolutely fantastic job in the backfield. And we were expecting more out of Fletcher in 2023, and every time he stepped on the field, he played outstanding. Don't get it wrong, but this was just part of the juggling act that had to happen. With like you've got William Stanback, you've got Walter Fletcher, you got Joshua Antwi. Pick 2 out of the 3. I mean, trying to get all 3 of those guys involved in the game at the same time, easier said than done. I mean,
camp's going to be interesting because even though we have those, we have them coming in. The Owls have signed a lot. Every year it seems like the outlet Danny Mac always has something going. His gears are going. He has signed a lot of running backs to come into camp. Camp's going to be fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And let's not forget, last year, everybody was like, "Who's going to replace Geno Lewis?" Like the Alouettes are screwed. No Geno Lewis. No Jake Winicky. Reggie White had gone down to injury. He wasn't coming back yet. The Alouettes are screwed at receiver. I'm like, well, so what's funny? They wrote off the Alouettes, but the Alouettes didn't write back because Danny Mac just went to town. He brought in the Austin Mack. He brought in Tyler Snead. He brought in a lot of these receivers that you didn't know them from a hole in the wall, but once he got on the field, you're like, oh, okay. And did we forget about Tyson Philpott? Did we forget about Keon Julian Grant?
That's the thing. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't think we were screwed. I mean, yes, it was challenging, and
that's the best word. Perfect word, Cliff. Perfect word.
Yeah, and that's what we're facing in 2024 now at the running back position is okay. It's a challenge. And guess what? You bring in these guys. Yeah, you know what you have with Walter Fletcher. You know what you have with Joshua Antwi. You don't know what you have with these other guys, but you know what? Let's see who comes up. Let's see if there is that diamond in the rough. Because at one point, William Stanback was a nobody. At one point, Brandon Whitaker was a nobody. Tyrell Sutton was a nobody, and so on and so forth. But they came in, they did the work, and they ended up becoming superstars. And there's no reason to believe that. You take a look at the running back list that's on the Alouettes page as far as on the roster. You may not know these guys now, but maybe this time next year when free agency hits, we'll be like, why didn't the Alouettes keep this guy? He did so well. That's football for you, folks. I mean, you just never know. So yeah, just like you, I'm excited to go to training camp and see this running back competition. That's what it was for receiver last year, it's going to be running back this year. I'm excited.
Not as much for wide receiver, even though the Owls have brought in quite a few wide receivers because they're trying to find that. They're trying to find that they're trying to find that Austin Mack in the rough.
I guess you could say that. Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
Let's look at more at some of the guys that we have. Let's center on the guys I think that we have currently lost. You want to do it that way, but since we're talking about William Stanback and stuff like that, and then we'll go with the guys that we've gotten because we've had a lot. We thought our defense was good last year at the end of the year. Holy crap, dude! When you look at our defense now, what? But let's see if we can. Let's center on some of the guys that we have actually that have not re-signed with the Alouettes. So we'll go with the most recent one, which was announced today. All-star defensive back Ciante Evans is going to be joining William Stanback and Vernon Adams in BC as he signs a 1-year contract. Thoughts on losing Ciante?
Tough because especially the first part of the season last year, he was a turnover machine. Like he was making quarterbacks' lives miserable. And I think he did a very good job when it came to helping along the youngsters like the Wesley Suttons, the Reggie Stubblefields, KB Nantos. You noticed it when he went on the injury list. It's like all of a sudden you're like, oh crap! Like these young guys, are they ready? And you know what? It's that first part of the season, like remember that a lot of these guys were still kind of finding their way just a little bit. I mean, Wesley Sutton, not so much. He knew the score. He knew what was going on. So I wasn't too worried about him. But the youngsters, once, like I said, we talked about KB Nento, like that was a work in progress there. I mean, in the end, it all worked out. He ended up becoming an absolute superstar.
And then once they got back Stubby, after the Owls activated him, he balled out too. So I mean, it's a matter of leaning on these guys who have been in the league for as long as they'd had.
Mm-hmm. And again, you can't you can't coach experience. I mean, you can't teach experience. You either have it or you don't. And Deontay Evans definitely had it. Listen, this was his second go around with the Alouettes. Like he played with the Alouettes in 2019, played phenomenal football then, played excellent football last year. So yeah, it's disappointing to not see. I would like to see him stick around, just to help ensure that secondary is still in tip top shape. So it's listen, once again, can't fault him. The opportunity was there. I mean, if he was in the card, if he was in the plans, then there's no doubt in my mind that Danny Machocha would have done what he could to keep him. But maybe he looks at some of the youngsters that have been signed as well that were on the practice roster.
Mm-hmm.
Let's also not forget Najee Murray, who was injured last year. He's coming back. More than likely, he will slot into that role for Evans. And maybe the thought is, okay, you know what? Najee Evans is a pretty damn good football player, and he's going to make some noise out in the secondary. So I guess the thought is, well, maybe we don't need a Deontay Evans. So I hope it's one of those strategies that's, like I said, letting him go. I just hope it doesn't come back to bite the Alouettes on the butt. But you have to trust your instincts, I think, as general manager. You have to trust that the players that you are signing and the players that you're letting go, it's the right moves to make. And truthfully, only time's going to tell.
Yeah. Another, and it's funny, just about to say that, VA. Hardy also happened to join the BC Lions also.
Yeah, Jake Hardy, who towards the end of the season also did fantastic work. He also of the sorry, I'm sorry, I was thinking about, I'm mixing him up with Cole Speaker, but Jake Hardy, so happy for him to get the opportunity. Like he was out of football for a little bit, came to Montreal, got it together, ended up being a great contributor as well. And
had that one game where it was the Jake Hardy show late in the season. So,
and it's kind of funny, like all these former Alouettes going to BC. It's kind of like when all the former Stampeders went to Toronto and joined Ryan Dinwiddie there as coach. So I guess VA, he's putting on a masterclass as far as recruitment goes and getting all these Alouettes to come all the way out west. So let's not forget, the BC Lions are the Vancouver is hosting the Grey Cup this year. So you better believe that the BC Lions are going to do everything they can to put together a top-notch roster and compete in order to host and be a part of that Grey Cup game.
Exactly. Looking at the list here also, I mean, it's funny, the Owls are able to get quite a few guys. They still had some major names, and if everybody happens to check the Owls current roster, it has been fully updated. Same thing with all the current transactions on the CFL website. So a lot of the guys who were currently listed as free agents are not with the Alouettes on the Alouettes roster anymore. Given the like Vincent Desjardins, Greg Ellingson, I think Nafis Lyon, has also been cut. Landon Rice. Am I forgetting anybody?
Those are some of the more the major names.
Yeah. So. But again, as we were saying for the Alouettes and free agents, a lot of these guys started right before Christmas. It was Christmas early for Alouettes fans. Not only did we get the schedule, but we also got some of these guys who were extended, and they weren't. And I don't want to go into it, too much, because we already did it in our last couple of shows of season 8. But some of these guys are here for a while. The extension, of Cody Fajardo, I think that was, and I think I mentioned this in one of the late shows last year, that was the domino. That was what started everything, I think, for all these guys returning. So it's seeing a lot of these guys come back to the Alouettes. I'm very, very happy, but also, you can't complain with who the Alouettes have signed, Cliff, when it comes to these free agents from other teams. And these guys are no slouches in any way, shape, or form. And as I was saying to you before, the defense that we have now, these guys that are on defense, I'm hoping that both the offense and defense are able to complement each other perfectly throughout the season.
Yeah. And it's funny, I was on the Canadian Football Countdown show yesterday as part of their free agent frenzy. And they asked, like, what moves, what do you think what big moves do you think Danny Machocha is going to make? I said he could never stop playing with the defensive line. I mean, that's been his pet project since he came on board in 2020. He's constantly tinkering with it, constantly making changes. And when you lose like a Lual Ugalak, who, again, young guy, you thought, okay, this guy's going to be around for a while, and he's already won a Grey Cup. Like, then sure enough,
and a Canadian.
Exactly. And like, okay, well, all right, now he's going to go back to the NFL. He's going to go try his hand at the NFL. Like, what do you do? Like, okay, well, you go out and you get another national member of the defensive line. In fact, Gel went ahead and got 2 members of the defensive line that are both national players.
Yep.
So it's about the depth. It's about making sure you got that front four just looking absolutely ferocious. And you take a look at the names on that. Sean Lemon, Mustafa Johnson. Now we're adding on Isaac Adeyemi Berglund.
Yep.
Derek Wigan, and Dylan Wynn.
Yep.
Holy crap. I mean, that's dangerous. Oh, and let's not forget Brock Gowanlock, who's been on this team now for the past couple of years, and also, too, starting to come into form after, a couple of injury-riddled first seasons. This dude has always been dangerous. He's always shown flashes of brilliance. And he, too, can step in and make some serious impact for this defensive line. I look at this defensive line like, holy crap. I mean, this is good. This is really good. I mean, like, again, man, we go into it before, and we said it many times. Like, obviously now how this team looks on paper burns, as I've said, but remember, we need to see how this team will gel come training camp. Because, and it's true. I mean, I don't expect any of these guys to get cut at the end of camp, considering, how much of an integral part they seem like they're going to be for the defense. But again, it's everybody's team looks good after free agency, once free agency starts. But man, now a question to you though, Cliff, though, and obviously, sometimes the defense has been here or there for the Owls. Obviously they stepped up mightily when it came to, obviously winning the Grey Cup and then getting how well they did at the end of the season. Do you think that the Owls are concentrating too much on defense and not enough on offense, or based on the free agents that they have signed, the unrestricted, how do I call these guys? The guys that weren't on major free agents, the guys that they've pulled off the street. I'll put it that way. Well, free agents.
Yeah. But what are your thoughts when it comes to that? Do you think that they're centering too much on the defense? Because I've heard some chatter saying, "Oh, well, what about the offense?" But what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I would argue that they concentrated on the offense before free agency got underway. I mean, re-upping Fajardo, you didn't have to worry about Caleb Evans and Davis Alexander. So I mean, the quarterback position was fine.
Yeah.
The running back situation was the only sort of concern, if you will, was of which two of the three-headed monster were going to be sticking around. Got that settled. That's straightened up now. In addition to adding on to running backs, signing a bunch of them. Receiver position, I mean, look at the receivers that this team had before. I mean, like I said, Tyson Philpott, Keon Julian Grant, Cole Speaker. I mean, like, guys that contributed and played a major role in this Grey Cup. I mean, like I said, losing Austin Mack, yeah, that was tough, but also too, Galwitz decided to go out and get. I will never use the term replacement, but
yeah,
a good addition to who I think will be a very good addition to the core in Tevin Jones from the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
And this guy, by the way, people don't remember who Tevin Jones is if you didn't see the game. He's the guy that basically caught the tip. What was it? The tip pass for the touchdown for the Saskatchewan Roughriders versus Calgary.
Yeah, just an absolutely phenomenal play. Like, I think Trevor Harris quarterback. He just basically threw up a prayer, and it looked like it was going to get picked off, but instead just bounced off the hands of the Calgary defender and into Tevin Jones's hands, and he just waltzed into the end zone. Holy moly!
Yeah, they just went nuts at Mosaic. They would if he can pull off some of that stuff this year in Montreal, I'll be more than happy with that. So,
See, and that's the thing. He's going to have the opportunity to become more of a playmaker now. Like if he is stepping into that quote unquote Austin Mack spot, then he's going to have absolutely a chance to. Yeah, and he's also played with Cody Fajardo too
Exactly.
in 2022. So Fajardo knows him very well. Jason Moss knows him very well, and obviously, I'm pretty sure they had a very big say in like, yeah, this is you got to get this dude because he can make something special. He can be something special here. So, I mean, as far as offense goes, I mean, you're always tinkering, and I wouldn't be surprised if Danny Mac decides to add another known receiver as well because. Truthfully, I don't see the Alouettes retaining Greg Ellingson.
No, it's official. No, it's official. He has been. He's according to the current transactions. Greg Ellingson is no longer a part of the Montreal Alouettes.
No, I get that. Like anyone who's a free agent is truly like a pending free agent is now truly a free agent in the sense that they're not on the team. But again, I don't see Danny Mac going back after Greg Ellingson. I guess that's what I was trying to say. Not to put him down or anything like that. It's just
he just had a rough. Ellingson was a one of the big signings for 2023, but it just as much as a positive pedigree that he had in the CFL and what he did was phenomenal in the CFL. One injury, whatever happened in training camp, he was not able to recover from it. And he got into one game. So,
yeah. And no, you take a look at the receiving core as it sits, and some other agents or other free agents were added as well to sort of compete for that open spot, if you will. But honestly, I look at this receiving core, and there is so much to like. Let's not forget Keshan Abram, who played some pretty outstanding football at training camp last year.
Mm-hmm.
Courtney Davis also had he was able to come in for a couple of games and make a bit of noise. Shedler Furvius, draft pick last year for the Alouettes, he was another one. Started coming in a little bit later towards the end of the season, but he's another guy that, given the opportunity, can shine as well. And also to a national receiver, which will definitely complement Tyson Philpott and Keon Julian Grant. So,
and we got the returning Reggie White, which will be very interesting to see how he's able to adjust and get back to things after having the entire year off because of injury.
Yeah. So, I mean, all this to say that coming back around to answer your question as far as the offense goes, I'm not too concerned about that. And I'm not to say that I'm concerned now about the defense, but when it comes to defense, I mean, you can't have enough quality players as far as I'm concerned. Like the way that Machocha is constantly working with and tinkering with the defensive line, I'm good with that because he's definitely adding some key elements there. The linebacking core, I will argue, is one of the very best in the Canadian Football League. To me, I think the secondary is extremely good. I would like to see them focus a little bit more, get a little bit more depth there. I wouldn't mind seeing them add I'm thinking maybe a Winston Rose would not be a bad move to make.
Okay.
So far, he hasn't. No one's really been kind of kicking the tires on him. I was a little disappointed. Demario Houston had signed with the Calgary Stampeders. I thought that could be a fun addition to the Alouettes, but I mean, dude, I think he led the league in interceptions last year. So I mean, of course, he was definitely going to be highly courted. So, but Winston Rose, who essentially Houston had supplanted in Bomberland, I wouldn't mind seeing Winston Rose maybe come in here and on a team friendly deal and could maybe make some noise happen. And also too would be an experienced leader that can, again, I think complement like the KB Nentos and the Richie Stubblefields in that secondary. So to me, I think there's still a couple more moves to be made. I definitely see Machocha possibly kicking the tires on a couple more defensive backs and
because even in the CFL's free agency today, there are some pretty significant names moving different places. Same thing with Evans as an example. So it's gonna be fun, dude. It really is. I mean,
how fun is it to actually be able to watch the tampering period this year? Which I have to say, a week I think is a little too long to go with it. I mean, it's I'd like to see it become a real frenzy. Like I'd say 72 hours before free agency, that's your tampering window, if you want to call it that. I think a week is too long. Like you got.
Well, we did have some surprise. We had that one who I think the one dude. Where was he? He said yes to Calgary, and then he backed out.
Yeah, I think it was
Something like that. So we
Yeah,
didn't expect that twist.
and Jamal Morrow, who actually failed his physical so he's not going to
Oh,
be signing with the Stampeders. That's another interesting wrinkle. That was somebody who I thought could have been brought in to replace William Stanback, or at least compete with that spot, so to speak.
mm-hmm.
Still could, in theory, happen, but I think the
Yeah,
Alouettes are very happy with not just Joshua Nantwi and Walter Fletcher, but they also added Sean Thomas Erlington, which
yes.
I have to laugh because that seems to be the token pick, if you will, for Danny Machocha, a former Montreal Carabin. You know, Danny loves to sign his former Carabins, and STE did actually play for the Carabin, so
Mm-hmm.
no, now he's coming home, so to speak, which would be interesting to see. I think he'll definitely be a great competition for Fletcher and Antwi. Like I said, I truly don't see those two being supplemented by or supplanted, I should say, by
Yeah.
STE, but it'll make for a very interesting and competitive camp.
And again, especially with we've seen some of the names that the Owls have brought in for those free agent running backs too. So it's going to be fun. But and by the way, we're talking about too Kadeem Carey. By the way, so obviously he's heading over to Calgary because he's taking the place of AJ Ouellette. That's interesting too. So
Going to Toronto, I mean.
sorry, Toronto. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's free agency, man.
It's wild. I mean, but
Now,
how much fun is it though to be able this year to be able to watch that and know that the Alouettes are able to make moves. They're able to offer contracts if they want to. Like they could blow their brains out if they want to. Whereas last year, Danny Mac was handcuffed. Like he couldn't do anything. Like
Randy Ambrosi was like, na 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 na, and then it was like, ding.
Yeah, the day of. By that time, that's closing the barn door after the horses have gotten out.
Yeah.
Like thanks, really great, appreciate it. I mean, listen, in the end, it all worked out, right? I mean, people always joke about how the Ottawa Red Blacks win free agency every year, and look what's happened. You know, the records they come out with. I mean, it's just because you sign a whole bunch of free agents doesn't mean that your team's automatically going to be better. I mean, as you said, look good on paper, but you're right, paper burns.
Exactly. And we were just talking about it before. Just Jared also wanted to know about the new D-line acquisitions. I hope we're able to answer the questions well enough for you, Jared.
Yeah, but I'll sum it up. I'm very excited to see what Isaac Berglund and Derek Wigan can do. Both guys were very big contributors on the defensive line in Calgary. Both national players. I know Berglund was very excited because we on the Flightdeck account we basically welcomed him to Alouettes football, and he responded back like, "Yeah, so excited, love Quebec." Like
I had forgotten. I watched the thing they did. The Owls did a season, the free agency special today, and they had him on. He played at Lennoxville, and then he played here in Quebec. You know,
yep.
for U Laval. So I mean, it's
Nova Scotia boy. So I mean, like that.
Yeah.
By default, I mean, it's like the Alouettes would be the closest team proximity wise for if his family wanted to come see him play. I mean, so yeah, it's going to be very exciting to see Isaac Berglund on that defensive line. As I said, with all those other guys that we mentioned earlier, and Dylan Wynn, and wow.
Yeah, what's your thought on that one? Do you think that one came out of nowhere? Because obviously, I think it's funny. You know what? I give props to all the CFL insiders. You know, Dave Naylor and Farhan Lounge and stuff like that. One of the best tweets that I think that we had seen so far of insider information was seeing, you know, Dylan Wynn is reported being in the Montreal airport. I mean, you can't get any better than that, man.
Yep. Hilarious. And of course, right away, like Hamilton, people were speculating, oh no, what? No. Because, they too, they're kind of going through it right now with a lot of their free agents leaving, but they're also adding free agents too. So, I mean, it's a team that's
interesting to see who has left. I mean, Toronto, I don't want to call them gutted, but Toronto's taken a major hit. Hamilton, not as much. So, obviously friend of this show, Matt Schultz, all the best to you, dude, over in Calgary.
Yeah. You know what? I love that move for him because I truly think he can go in there, compete with Jake Mayer, and I truly would not be surprised if he ends up winning the starting job. Not to slight Jake Mayer, but I truly think Schultze he's at that point. He's got the experience now. He's been in this league for a few years. He knows what it takes to win. Sometimes it's just about the right system, and I can't help but think with Dave Dickinson as head coach and some of the weapons that are there in Calgary, and I think it's a great place to develop quarterbacks. I think that's the perfect situation for him to walk into, and I truly would not be surprised if come the first weekend of June, you end up seeing Matthew Schultz's QB1 out in Calgary.
Yeah, and this time around for Ottawa. Ottawa did this a few years ago. I think they reloaded quite a bit last year, and it just fell to pieces. But they've been very active also when it comes to free agency. And the East, again, it's early, but man, the East looks there may be a shift in the East this year.
Yeah. I definitely think, though, that Montreal did the right thing when it came to free agency. Like, they identified almost immediately who they wanted to keep from that Grey Cup winning team, made sure they got those guys signed, sealed, and delivered.
And I think it also helped with recruiting too. I mean, if you have a Sean Lemon recruiting you to come to Montreal, come on. Darnell Sankey, come on. Cody Fajardo, come on.
Definitely. Tyson Philpott too. I mean, like you talk about the future. You're talking about how this team is built and how they're putting themselves together. I mean, there really is a lot to be excited about, and we've only scratched the surface. I mean, let's not forget, like I said, the superstars come out of the woodwork all the time, and like I said, this competition that's going to be heating up for running back. I'm very excited to see that.
It's going to be fun.
Then you get the draft. You've got other potential stars that will just come out, and man, it's always exciting. That's what I love about this time of year. Like, it's the off season, it's the winter. There's no football actually being played, but my God, this is such an exciting time of year for football fans. And so far, I'm very pleased with the moves that the Alouettes have made. And it's almost like, well, okay, as it sits right now, this is looking pretty good. If you think you can add to it, by all means, I'm here for it. But you know what? If they decide, okay, these are moves we're going to make, we're good with what we've got. Okay, we'll see how the rest of it unfolds. But so far, this team is very much looking like a team that's going to be defending its Grey Cup championship.
And come camp in St. Jerome in May. For once, I won't mind having a scorecard to see all the new names and trying to figure out who they are. But there can be a ton of names that we actually do know that carried over from the year prior. So it'll be interesting to see some of these guys and their sophomore seasons with the Alouettes. So it'll be fun. But I mean, we're just started. It's just started, really. You can really just say that now the 2024 season really just started.
Yeah, that's it. I think free agency basically kicks the door open and says, yeah, we're back. We're back to CFL football. And it just starts from there. You got free agency. Next month is the Combine out in Winnipeg. Get to see potential stars of the future. Who do you think the Alouettes are going to be going after when it comes to trying to fill roster voids in that respect? Then you've got the draft to find out which of those players that we saw at the Combine end up truly becoming members of the Alouettes. And again, maybe these guys, you won't hear about them until 2-3 years down the road, but that's where it starts. And then
with St. Jerome only being 45 minutes up the road, dude, multiple ways to get there to St. Jerome to see camp this year, by car, by train, by bus, you can get to St. Jerome and make it over to camp.
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah. Want to remind everybody that if you want to check out any of our past episodes of the previous 8, and maybe even you want to listen to today's episode of the season premiere of the 9th season, you can do so later on by heading over to our archive over at www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. If you also want to follow us on social media, please do so. You can find us over on X, Twitter, or Twix. I think we love calling it Twix, don't we, Cliff? You can follow us.
Awesome.
Alouettes FL Deck. You can also follow us on Facebook at Alouettes Flight Deck Pod, and Instagram and YouTube. I mean, if you're watching the show right now live, you're following us. It's at youtube.com/Alouettes Flight Deck for both of those things. And yes, we are also on Blue Sky. We're going to get that going a little bit more too. We also are on Threads. Don't use it as much, but also you can follow me on Twitter at Repact. That's REPPACT. And you can follow Cliff at Cliffy D. Also want to remind you too that if you're looking to get some new merch, including our homage to the championship, our We the Ones t-shirt, head over to our merch shop or get some other merch with our logos on it, because we got some new stuff coming up very, very soon. Head over to Flightdeck, www.flightdeckgear.ca, and rep the podcast, whether it be now, camp, at the game, wherever it may be. Also, breaking news for everybody, just to let you know that we are going to be returning, because of our great guys over at SportsBuff, the flight crew seats are going to be returning for the 2024 season. Stay tuned for more information on how you're going to be able to get your own pair of tickets to see your Grey Cup champs play during the 2024 home season.
How exciting is that? Especially too, let's not forget the first regular season game this year, late June. We're going to be unfurling a Grey Cup banner, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will. So yeah, when the time comes, folks, make sure you're tuned in. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, whether it's on your favorite podcatcher, whether it's here on YouTube. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe button. People leaving us comments, we definitely appreciate all of that. However, you can to help interact and grow the show with us. It's definitely appreciated. We're going to have all kinds of great giveaways to do this year. Got some exciting guests that we've got planned that, even during the off season too. Like there's a couple of alumni members that want to talk with us as well. So we're very excited to be able to make that happen for you all. And as always, tune into our socials. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're following us. It's the best way to find out of any late breaking news, anything like that. Like we're not going to be every week here during the off season.
No,
I figure maybe once every 2 weeks might be a little bit more ideal. Or when anything major happens, then
yes, for sure.
Yeah, we'll get on and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, we can go live. And this is the new thing too, by the way. We want your feedback on how we've done for the very first live episode of the Alouettes Flight Deck podcast taping. Just shoot us some, let us know on socials, or you can email us. Email me at tim.capper@alouettesflightdeck.ca or email cliff at cliffyd.pine at alouettesflightdeck.ca. Was that what yours is?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it was. But yeah, and let us know, because we want to make this a regular thing. Cliff and I did some testing last night, and we found out some stuff's like, oh, what happens if we happen to do an interview that can't go live? Oh, it will work. So you won't be missing a thing. By the way, Cliff, I was talking to our season ticket guy, because we had the same season ticket manager for the Alouettes. And I was asking him some questions, and he was just giving me we're just doing some quick chatting about stuff. And I just happened to mention, I said, so have you been measured for your ring yet? He goes, oh, funny you ask. We just did that yesterday.
Must be nice.
Those are coming. Those are coming. Those are coming. And also it's not a secret, but the Alouettes are also producing a Grey Cup book of some sort, like a year in review book, where season ticket holders had a chance earlier this year to actually get their name. I guess we're like producers of the book. Are we co-authors? Are you and I now co-authors?
Ooh. Does that mean we get? Well, I guess we don't get writing credit.
Residuals.
Maybe residuals would be nice.
We can put it on our new IMDb profile. How's that?
Interesting. I'll or add it to the LinkedIn. I don't know. We'll
yeah. And also, if you happen to miss any of this, and just as normal, if you happen to miss the show, you will be able to catch it on the audio itself. It will still show up on YouTube, and it will show up on all the wherever you can get your podcasts. You will be able to catch the audio version of this podcast throughout our 9th broadcast season.
Yeah, anywhere you find, wherever you listen to podcasts, folks, just do a search for Alouettes Flight Deck. Chances are you'll find us there, whether it's any of the big ones or even the smaller ones too. I'm actually very surprised at where our reach is, Tim. And yeah, so I mean, there's no excuse, folks. I mean, if you're tuned in with us, we appreciate it 100%. Again, I cannot stress enough, like, subscribe, however you do it. I mean, just, come and join us on this ride. I mean, we had such a blast last year. I mean, all the way up to the Grey Cup, and even being a part of the Grey Cup itself. I mean, that was absolutely phenomenal. And I'm looking forward to more again in 2024. I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do, right from training camp all the way to the end, all the way to Vancouver and the Grey Cup there and beyond. I mean, it's shaping up to be a really fun, exciting season, and I'm so thrilled. The grind for 9 has officially started, and I can't wait.
And also, too, not only did we restart the our broadcast season, but do stay tuned for season 2 of Flight Deck Live. For sure, you will be seeing us at training camp. You will be seeing us post game. We're looking forward to bringing you our very unique post game show that we started just last year here at the Alouettes Flight Deck. So it's we're looking forward to season 2 of Flight Deck Live.
Absolutely, this is, man. I mean, it started yesterday, or it started on Tuesday with free agency getting underway, and even before then. I mean, like I really can't stress how the CFL has essentially become almost feels like a 24/7, 365 league now. Like, there's always news. There's always something to talk about. There's always things to be paying attention to. Like, there's an off season, obviously. Like, obviously no football's being played, but I mean, so much stuff is happening behind the scenes, and we get to be a part of it as well. And it's so exciting. So, folks, please, I can't stress enough. Make sure you're along for the ride. Make sure you're along with us for the ride, because it's going to be phenomenal. There's no question in my mind that this is going to be one heck of a season again this year.
Yep, I agree with you, dude. Any last words before we finish up our first season, first broadcast of our 9th season?
No, just once again, thanks again to everybody who's joining us. All the people that came in, showing the love, giving the comments. We definitely appreciate each and every one of you.
Thanks for joining us, VA, man. That was a nice surprise.
Our man Vernon Adams, like I said, you always showing the love to the day one guys. We appreciate you, dude. Like I said, you're doing a hell of a job recruiting for the PC Lions. I mean, I don't know how many more other former Alouettes you want to get out there, but I mean, listen, but who are we to stop you, right? So
exactly.
We're definitely looking forward to spending some time with you again, Vernon, and man, just keep doing what you do, man. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Cute. Well, Turf District, you're kind of right. This is kind of Flight Deck Live, but it's the Alouettes Flight Deck Podcast Live. How about that?
AFD
Semantics.
Live.
Semantics. Yeah.
It's I guess kind of a bit of a mashup, if you will, between Flight Deck Live and the Alouettes Flight Deck. So call it what you will, but we're trying something out, and what did it work? Did it not work? Let us know in the comments below, and we trust me, we check everything out, and we're looking forward to keeping this party going.
Exactly. We appreciate everybody who joined us for our first live episode of our Flight Deck Live. Excuse me. See, he got me doing it. The Flight Deck of the Alouettes Flight Deck podcast. We hope to see you guys in the next couple of weeks with our another brand new show. So for everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.